No Time to Die is out in theaters, so there is no time better than now to rank all of the actors who played Bond from the least best to the absolute best. Let's get started. Before getting into the ranking, let me tell you that this is my personal ranking of the actors who played Bond. It has nothing to do with the films that they were in, it has nothing to do with anyone else's opinion. It's just the way I see them as Bond. It's just my personal take. I'm very sure that your ranking of the James Bond actors is going to be completely different from mine. So put down in the comments what your ranking is of the actors who played Bond over the years. Without any further ado, let's get started with number 6. Now, George Lazenby is a curious case when it comes to the actors who played Bond, because he was Bond for just one film, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and he never reprised his role ever again. So it's just not enough content for me to evaluate his position as Bond. And from what he was in the film, he was good enough, but I can't really compare him with the other Bonds, and it's not even fair to compare him with other Bonds when he just has one film under his radar. Coming up at number 5 is Daniel Craig. Again, I know a lot of you are just cursing at the screen. How can you put Daniel Craig so low? I know a lot of you love Daniel Craig, I know, but just hear me out. I don't think Daniel Craig is a bad Bond. I think he's good, but then I just have a problem with the way his character is written for the films he is in. Now, I absolutely love Casino Royale. It's one of my favorite Bond films, and he was great there. He was a very different Bond. He was gritty, he was realistic, and I really liked that. But after Casino Royale and the events that happened during Casino Royale, that is, he begins to love Vesper and then she dies, all of that, he just becomes a more hardened version of Bond. I'm not saying it's badly done, but I just could never connect with the character in a way that I connected with the other Bonds. So Daniel Craig as an actor is really good, but just his iteration of Bond, I personally could never connect with the way his character was written in the movies he was in. Also, I just grew up watching the other actors portray Bond, and so maybe because of that I just have something towards them that I couldn't feel towards Daniel Craig, but still a good performance. At number 4 is going to be Timothy Dalton. Now, a lot of you might not like Timothy Dalton as Bond, but I find his Bond very interesting. I find him to be a darker version of Bond he's really cold and calculating, but I kind of like his performance and I like the way his character was written in the films he was in. Now again, he was just in 2 films, but I really think Dalton makes his impact in the films that he was in. I think License to Kill and The Living Daylights, both of them are like very underrated Bond films, and he gives a very different performance from the other Bonds, and at times he might not even feel like James Bond, but then that just comes off as something so unique in the franchise. And also the fact that his films are so dark in nature, that just adds an interesting perspective to the films that he's in. And for all of those reasons, I think Timothy Dalton is a very underrated Bond. Coming up at number 3 is Roger Moore. Roger Moore, I grew up watching his films. I really love his performance. He just feels like Bond, and for an actor who was 45 when he started to play Bond in the first film, Live and Let Die, I really love his performance. He just has the charisma, the style, the coolness, and he just feels like Bond. The moment he's on screen, you just look at him And you're like, yeah, that's Bond. That's how he's supposed to look like. I don't know. I just really love Roger Moore in these films. Again, he's not really that consistent when it comes to his performance over the course of films that he's in. But overall, a really, really good Bond. A classic one. Coming up at number 2 is going to be Sean Connery, the man who started it all. The very first Bond, as they say, the first is always the best. I completely agree in this case. Sean Connery is the definition of Bond. I also believe that if Connery wasn't cast as Bond in Dr. No, the very first James Bond film, then I don't even think this would have been a successful and popular franchise as it is right now. I just don't think it would have gotten all of this success if it wasn't Connery that started it all. He just has the coolness and the charisma that is required to play Bond. He just does it with a panache and this suaveness that is really impossible to replicate. Except for maybe the number 1 pick on this list, and I really struggled between both these picks with number 2 and number 1 because both of them are such excellent Bonds, and the only reason I put Sean Connery at number 2 solely because and the fact that I just grew up watching number 1's iteration of Bond more than I did with Sean Connery. But yeah, Sean Connery, just a legend. Coming up at number 1 for me is Brosnan, Pierce Brosnan. Just look at him. I mean, the moment he's on screen, you're like, yeah, that's Bond. The first time I watched one of his films, I just knew from the moment he entered into the scene, like, that's how Bond should look like, that's how Bond should be. He's suave, he's stylish, he's cool. He just captures the grittiness of Daniel Craig and Timothy Dalton's films, but he also has the light-hearted and coolness of Roger Moore and Sean Connery. He's just the perfect blend of Bond, and I just honestly don't think there could ever be an actor who can pull it off with such ease and such grace. He was a huge part of my childhood. I used to rewatch his films over and over and over and over again. Absolutely love all of his films. Absolutely love him as Bond. And so for me personally, he is number 1. So that is my ranking of all of the actors who portrayed Bond. I know my ranking is going to be very different from yours. So put down in the comments your ranking of all of the actors who portrayed Bond. I'd be very interested to see how you would rank these actors. And yeah, if you like this video, if you enjoyed it, do give it a like. Also consider subscribing to the channel for more such content. Hit that bell icon so that you don't miss out on any new videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again.